There's one word these days that conjures raw emotions in many Americans: mandates. Specifically, those which involve people getting a COVID-19 vaccine and/or having to wear masks in schools and public places. Today on the show, we take a look at this issue through the lens of West Warwick High School. First, we'll hear from two West Warwick High School graduates who are against vaccine and mask mandates. Then we'll hear from the other side. This show might change your view from one side to the other, or maybe not. My goal is not to change minds, but to get both sides of the story and to put accurate information out there. It almost goes without saying that there are important issues on which people do not agree, and this is one of them. And we are going to dissect it right now.
This is the Words with Wizards podcast, your look at the world through the lens of West Warwick High School. It's where we talk to interesting people, visit cool places, and sometimes hit on a big story. And at the end of it all, you'll learn a little more about what's going on in the land of the orange and black. And now, here's your host, Eric White.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. This is episode 21 and today is Friday, October 29th, 2021. And this is the Words with Wizards podcast. I have to be honest with you. I have not looked forward to doing today's show because the issues of COVID-19 vaccine and mask mandates are all too often bringing out the ugly side of humanity. But it is an issue that affects the lives of us all. And for the purposes of this show, it affects the lives and livelihoods of every West Warwick Public School student and employee. First, you'll hear from two West Warwick High School graduates who are against vaccine and mask mandates. Then you'll hear from two people with connections to the school who are in favor of these mandates. But, as you might expect, the people against mandates are not on that side 100%. And likewise, for the people on the other side. At the start of this school year, I spoke to Ivan Goratoy, an all-state football player and track athlete and outstanding student who graduated in 2017. He just completed the Merchant Marine Academy. Around the same time, I also spoke to Nick Carlson, a current Dean College broadcast journalism student who graduated from West Warwick High School in 2019. Nick was part of the morning show in its early stages and was one of my students, and now someone I consider a good friend. Now, let's hear what they had to say.
So I'm not against vaccines. I think vaccines, if they are beneficial and they do help people, then there's no reason to not get it. However, that doesn't give people a right to force people to get a vaccine. And the same thing goes with mask mandates as well. If you're not going, my stance essentially is if you're not going to set guidelines, specifically like the types of masks to wear, like where you should wear them exactly, and like how long you should wear them, then I don't think it gives anyone the right to mandate them. I'm not against vaccines. I'm against mandating vaccines, like making a requirement in order for people to essentially live their basic human rights, you know?
Gotcha.
Same thing goes with masks. I'm not opposed to masks. I'm opposed to people mandating masks, and especially masks that aren't beneficial to anybody. You see a lot of people these days walking around with essentially a thin cloth on their face, you know, like that. Unless it's like a N95 mask, unless you're mandating an N95 mask, I don't see any beneficial aspects behind these masks that they're making people to wear.
2019 graduate Nick Carlson is concerned about the speed with which the vaccines were developed.
For the vaccine, with due time, I will be for it. As of right now, I believe it is too early to really mandate it.
Okay.
Just because of, we don't really know, and I know as of lately, as you drive down 295, 295. All the signs say that FDA has now approved the Pfizer.
Yeah.
But really it hasn't had the time to go through all those clinical trials. It takes, on average, 2 to 4 years for a vaccine to get approved.
Mm-hmm.
So as of right now, it would just be hitting that 2-year point.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like it's too early to know if it really truly is safe to get.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, with any other vaccine, you still can catch the disease.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the symptoms and the effects of the disease will be more mild. You can still catch and you can still transfer the disease. With the fast track of the vaccine, I really feel like that time would have given more data to show, instead of taking a month to study a patient that took the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Give them 3 months. Something might not occur in that first month of that patient getting the vaccine. As of right now, I'm still unvaccinated. The plan is I do have the plan to get vaccinated. I'm just waiting for more numbers and more statistics to come out. My goal is to be vaccinated by the end of the year.
Okay. Aren't there certain times when we need to do things for the good of the nation, whether we want to or not?
Absolutely, and I agree with that. But and I think that's where we were all headed towards at the start of Corona. However, as time went on, we started to see a lot of hypocrisies in the different kind of legislations that they were putting out, or the mandates that they were putting out. Mm-hmm. And it just became, a lot of people started to see it as unfair and unfit, and saw kind of no end to this pandemic and these rules that have to follow.
There are a lot of mandates going around right now for different businesses and government workers and things like that. That they, I think, I was reading something today about nursing home staff needing to be vaccinated by the end of October, the beginning or the end of October. What do you think of that? Of an employer mandating?
Of an employer mandating, I do. Well, see, that's where it's tough with, me working in a restaurant myself. I'm asked almost daily, "Are you vaccinated? Why aren't you people wearing masks?" My restaurant is a tourist attraction. A lot of tourists come in.
Yep.
And I've actually lost money from, I had a couple come in from New York and they're wearing their masks. They were sitting outside on our outdoor venue.
Yes. With
nobody else around them, and they still had masks on. Mm. They said they've come from New York, and that's where it's the most strict right now. New York is pushing, you have to show your vaccination card to go in any indoor establishment, restaurants, bars, movie theaters, gyms.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's one end of the spectrum, and then Rhode Island in the aspect of leaving it up to the businesses. If the business want customers and staff to wear masks, they will make it known.
Yeah.
But if not, you can wear one as you please. You're not required, but you are supposed to go off the honor system if you are vaccinated.
Oh, okay.
You do not have to wear a mask.
Okay. Ever come out positive, or has it all been negative?
I had COVID when I was up on campus back towards I got it at the end of April.
Oh, okay. But you got over that. Any lasting effects, or?
I mean, in terms of having it, I felt fine. My body was still good. I lost my taste and smell for about 5 days.
Okay.
And then it all just kind of came back out of nowhere.
Yeah.
In terms of long-lasting effects, I would say maybe just a slight breathing difficulty on certain days.
Yeah.
Some of the days where it's real, real hot out, I will struggle to breathe a little bit. Nothing over concerning, but enough to notice.
Goratoy is concerned about the effect of the pandemic on small businesses.
As you know, a lot of small businesses had to close down or shut down temporarily because of like social distancing guidelines, and people just didn't want to go out to begin with.
Yeah.
Because of that, a lot of small businesses suffered severely, some of which had to close down permanently because they just would not be able to financially recover from being closed for so long. Yeah. On the other hand, you have big businesses, large corporations like Walmart, Amazon, who are thriving right now because of people's ability to A, order, and then B, convenience, just because of like the space and everything, and
curbside pickup.
Sorry?
Curbside pickup, too?
Yeah, curbside pickup and everything. Something that small businesses could be doing, but unfortunately just didn't have the time to prepare or the money to prepare for that, just because Corona kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So
because of that, yes, I think we're all on board on, getting this thing out of the way just so that people can, doing our part so that people could survive and whatever. But in the long-term run, people started to hurt, not because of the virus, but because of what came out as far as mandates and everything because of the virus, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not the actual virus itself, but all the rules and everything that came out. So yeah. I just see a lot of small businesses. I see a lot of people who struggle socially, who need like social attention. They're struggling. Mm-hmm. The rate of suicides and everything has gone up, especially in the military, people who are out at sea, overseas.
Yeah.
And so at this point, like, what's actually hurting people? Is it the virus, which has people my age, people who are really healthy, have a 99% chance of surviving from?
Yeah.
Versus, the actual things that are happening.
Gotcha.
So
gotcha. Yeah.
That's my thought process on it. Like, yes, of course we want to help everyone, but we've come to a point, in my opinion, where we're starting to hurt more people because of everything going on.
So what's the difference? What would be the difference between mandating a vaccine and other things that we have to do? Like, we have to pay taxes. We don't have a choice for that. And parents who are enrolling their kids in school, when you went to school, when I went to school, we had to make sure we had the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, and probably polio too, if I'm not mistaken. What's the difference between mandating those vaccines and this one?
Right. So that's also a good point. So, I mean, I don't know how much, other people have studied behind the vaccine, but I personally haven't looked too much into it. And by the way, sorry, I should let you know, I am vaccinated.
No, that was going to be my question. And I don't think you said at the top, you're not anti-vax. You're just anti making people do this. And some of the other mandates that have come along with this have actually hurt people. So, and that's very clear. But you're vaccinated. Was it mandatory that you get vaccinated in the Navy? Have they made it mandatory?
So, at the time when I got vaccinated, I got my first shot in April.
Yeah.
It was not mandatory. However, just to give you a little background, when I got vaccinated at the academy, and life at the academy was very difficult, just because everybody's like so close to each other, since that's the only place where we live, essentially.
Yeah.
And then we were restricted to campus. We weren't allowed to leave. I wasn't even allowed to go out to my car that was parked right outside of campus and like grab something or anything. I would have to fill out a special permission form, and like sometimes that wouldn't get through all the way.
Wow.
So life just became very difficult at the academy, and a lot of people were really struggling. Again, just to put in more perspective, our chaplain there, I'm not going to name any names, but our chaplain there, he was telling us, at like a Bible study, he was telling us, my 3 years here, I've only had to deal with one attempted suicide or one thought of like suicide. I only had to counsel one person on that. Mm-hmm. This past year, because we were restricted and because of everything going on, he said that number went up to 8 people in just 1 year. And so, that's just to give you like the situation that we were kind of like facing, or like the environment that we were facing. It was like very downgrading for us. It was like very depressing, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
we couldn't talk to our friends barely. Like we could barely go out of our rooms. anyway, so when they finally came out with the vaccine, they're like, hey, we have the vaccine available. They're saying we're not going to force you guys to take this vaccine, but if you do take it, then things are going to get, like, there's a chance that things are going to get a lot better around here.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's like presenting a fat piece of meat to a hungry dog, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's a chance out of here. Like, oh, man, like, everything that we've been through these past years or this past year, it'll finally go away. You know, we can go back to having our normal life here, you know, keeping up with the King's Point traditions.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us were very intrigued, and like we're really interested in getting this vaccine. And so when it came around, I think 88 to like maybe 94% of the school got vaccinated.
How many people would that? How many people were in your class or in the school? You know, ballpark. If you don't know exactly, that's fine. But
yeah, I don't know exact numbers, but I think in total, I think we have around 1,100, maybe 1,200.
Wow. Yeah.
At one time, though, because, you know, people are going out to sea and like doing internships and everything.
Yeah.
At one time, I want to say maybe 700 to 800 people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I want to say when the vaccine came around, between 88 and 94%, I think. Wow. It got accepted really nicely.
Did things change? Did things change, loosen up a little?
It did for a while. We still weren't really allowed to leave, but you know, the guidelines that our school personally had set for us kind of lifted a little bit. We were able to like do more things more freely. Mm-hmm. Once New York opened up, that's when things kind of just really set open for us. You know,
gotcha.
Like an open road, essentially. But
you weren't mandated at that time. You weren't. They gave you the choice when it first came out. You took it.
Yeah, they gave us a choice. The way that they presented it, it was kind of like one of those backhanded deals. But why I took the vaccine was because I knew just deep down in my, you know, the battle of my gut, that I knew the military was going to mandate it as soon as it became FDA approved, which, if you've been following the news, they have.
Yep.
So that was kind of relieving on my end. I kind of knew that was going to happen.
Gotcha.
But so I was like, if I'm going to have to get it eventually, why not I get it now and see if life improves here, essentially, at the academy.
We'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Local Music Watch New England. They specialize in bringing attention and support to the local live music scene. Based in West Warwick and Warwick, their goal is to make people aware of local bands and venues that host these shows to show support of local musicians. With weekly schedules of live music performances across Rhode Island and other parts of New England, it's hard not to check them out. If you're interested in what they do, you can find them on Facebook at Local Music Watch New England or at lmwne.webadore.com.
Your parents immigrated over from Russia in the 90s, correct?
That is true.
Okay. So I'm wondering, because you know, in your family, you guys speak both languages. Your father and mother, did they instill in you an appreciation and respect for individual freedoms that we enjoy here in America? Do you think that might be a reason for, you know, the stance that you take?
Absolutely. And they might be the reason, you know, like they've always told us stories growing up about communist Russia and like how communism came into power and what they did to people who didn't comply, you know, or like people who didn't follow their rules or anything like that. And more specifically, we came over because of religious persecution. You know, you weren't able to freely practice your religion in Russia just because you know, they like to control you like that. They actually eradicated any practice of religion. And so because of that, you know, religion was just a small aspect of it in the grand scheme of things. They took away a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And they basically had no say because of it. And so when my parents came over here, they really appreciated the fact that they had all those liberties that were taken away from them in Russia. And they because of that, they've had not an easy life, but such an easier life compared to what they would have had in Russia.
Absolutely.
Of course, when they came here, they had to work hard for everything that they earned.
Yep.
They had to get their citizenship, and they, of course, had to get over the language barrier as well.
Yeah.
My parents, absolutely, they're the definition of trying to live the American dream, coming from a poor country, poor conditions, starting a new life here.
One of the things that people have said about these vaccines is that the CDC is saying this is the safest. These are the safest vaccines that have ever been developed, but they were created so quickly. Do you think that they're safe, or do you think that was that sacrificed just for the speed of getting it out?
Right, and I think that's the point where a lot of people are hesitant on getting the vaccine to begin with, because they're like, oh, it was rushed. That was before it was FDA approved. As we know, it just became approved.
Yeah.
And so people didn't know anything about it. They didn't know much about it.
Yeah.
So do I personally think the vaccine is safe? I mean, I've been vaccinated for maybe around 6 months now.
Yeah.
Yeah, my last shot was in May. So yeah, right around that. And then I haven't experienced any side effects or anything. However, if you go look online, you go look like side effects from COVID or whatever, and you go on the second page of Google, like there's a ton of articles about people like experiencing some kind of side effect from COVID. So I think it is, by case by case, So I don't know. Like I don't know. You always read articles. I've read a lot of articles, especially after I took the vaccine, about how safe it is, and I've read articles that say, this vaccine will help you with this variant of COVID. However, with the next variant, with Delta we see now, it actually helps the variant, get, and that's why you need the booster and all these kind of stuff. So I've tried to look into it. I try to do research into it, but then it becomes really complicated.
Yeah. Look at the CDC website. I looked at the CDC data website, and it can be. It's it's very detailed, and the data is all the raw data is right there. But unless you want to sift through 4,000,
exactly,
searching through it is. It's not impossible, but you really got to know what you're doing, and I don't.
Right. And before I had the vaccine, I would say, I would say this is an opinion of mine. If you're young, under your 30s and you have no health conditions, I really see no point in getting a vaccine. However, if you want to get it, of course, get it. Mm-hmm. That's just my opinion on it, based off of what I've read. I haven't seen any bad statistics against, against the COVID-19 vaccine. Mm-hmm. All I know is before I was vaccinated, I have been around people who have had COVID. I've walked into stores, all the time, freely, and this is going to sound bad, but I barely wear my mask.
Yeah.
Just because I thought it was stupid that they were doing that, especially if, a place like Walmart.
Yeah.
And I have something to add to that, but let me finish this first.
Yeah, good.
And I've had to get tested for COVID often. Probably at least once every month, sometimes once every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
And so of all those tests I've ever taken, I've never, ever popped positive.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, what really was going on, because I've been around people who have COVID. I've been living my life normally, essentially.
Yeah.
Just wearing, I can't say any bad words.
Mm-hmm.
Half wearing my face mask on my face.
Yeah.
And I have never tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
Could there have been, could there have been a mistake in the test in the past? I don't know. But that's just from my experience. So it kind of made me wonder, what exactly is the threat out here?
Yeah. Yep. And you had mentioned the age too. You're what, 20?
22.
22 now. And, so the risk to somebody your age is statistically low.
Yeah, very low.
Yeah. Your school is mandating that, if you go there, if you're on campus, if you're indoors, you wear a mask. What do you think of that? Do you think that's fair?
I know the promises that were made to the student body was, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear one. We'll take a step closer to going back to a normal reality, back before COVID. The understanding was if you're vaccinated, you do not have to wear a mask, and students who were unvaccinated, it was still up in the air.
Yeah.
But the school making the announcement, whether you're vaccinated, unvaccinated, partially vaccinated, we're going to full mask, full COVID protocols. We're going back to getting tested. We have to test at least 2 times a week, which that I don't blame them. Yeah. With such a great number of students coming from anywhere in the country and even out of the U.S., I think that is fair to do.
Yeah.
But I think the students just feel a little agitated that they were, in a sense, lied to. Don't make the promises if you can't follow through.
Gotcha. The ones that are vaccinated.
Correct.
Yeah. Gotcha. People have said that who are arguing against mask mandates that they could cause physical or psychological harm to school children. Do you think that there's a possibility of that when you think of mask? Is that one of the reasons you might not before mask mandates?
I don't know exactly the science behind it or anything. I just know the social aspect, and excuse me, I can tell you this from just my experience in college. We're all grown-ups, and we still suffer through this. Is the social aspect, especially kids, even in high school, but especially kids in middle school, elementary. They come to school and they need that social aspect of it. So when you only have a third of the school in at a time, that severely degrades that social building, those social skills, and people start to feel alone. Kids start to feel alone. They don't think that they have any friends because they're not able to talk to anybody. Yeah. I'm just thinking about my senior year at West Warwick High School.
Yeah.
When I attended there, I hung out with my friends all the time. Even at school, we would hang out all the time. We'd see each other in the hallways, hey, what's up? What's going on? Quick word with each other. And then shortly afterwards, you go and you just go to practice. You bond with them in practice and everything. And because of that experience, I'm still friends. I have 7, 8 best friends that I still talk to every single day from West Warwick High School. And I can't even imagine if that would be the case if I wasn't able to do that with them every single day. And so, and then like I was saying, at school, at the academy, our senior year was supposed to be this really memorable, great year that we have. And the bonds that you build at that school are unbreakable, and so you want to experience that with each other a lot. And to the most of it you are able to. And because of COVID and everything going on, a lot of our events got canceled, such as our ring dance. Our luau wasn't able to live up to what it could have been.
Yeah.
And then our winter balls, where you bring your dates from home or whatever, and you guys have a really good time. Then you go hit the city afterwards.
Yep.
It's stuff like that, those memories that we missed out on. And a lot of people kind of saw no end to it. And so that's why a lot of my friends became extremely depressed. There was no social aspect behind their lives. It was just academics.
Yeah.
And at the academy, we have a really strenuous academic program. Yeah. And it puts a lot of stress, and we had no output, essentially, to relieve that stress.
Do you think that having kids or anybody else wearing masks can cause physical or psychological harm to them?
In terms of the physical, of course, is the minor inconvenience of wearing one, just having something strapped to your face
yeah,
all day, that can be a little irritating for someone who is not used to that.
Yeah.
I know a few people in the medical field, and they're used to it like it's nothing.
Yeah.
But for someone like me and you who have never worn one before and having to wear one, you going through a whole school day of it, and me going through a whole college day of it.
Yep.
In terms of the mental aspect of wearing it, and I don't just blame the masks in this aspect. I mean, a lot of people, part of our interactions with people are reading facial expressions and gauging responses off of that. With masks being worn, you can't read somebody's facial expressions. It's hard to gauge somebody's facial expression off of two eyeballs above a cloth mask.
Yeah.
And I don't have the numbers on me as of right now, but even, due to isolation and having to quarantine, the suicide rate did spike in not just the U.S., but the world. A lot of humans are a social creature.
Yeah.
And forcing them to go into isolation has really negative effects in terms of communicating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, but in terms of the mental aspect of wearing it, and I don't just blame the masks in this aspect. I mean, a lot of people, part of our interactions with people are reading facial expressions and gauging responses off of that. With masks being worn, you can't read somebody's facial expressions. It's hard to gauge somebody's facial expression off of two eyeballs above a cloth mask.
Yeah.
And I don't have the numbers on me as of right now, but even, due to isolation and having to quarantine, the suicide rate did spike in not just the U.S., but the world. A lot of humans are a social creature.
Yeah. And
forcing them to go into isolation has really negative effects in terms of communicating.
Yeah. Because the thought behind the mandates is, well, it appears to be that, we bite the bullet and we don't eradicate this virus, but we get it under control, like measles, mumps, rubella. I mean, it's rare that a virus actually disappears, but you get it well under control with herd immunity. Isn't it better to just bite the bullet, follow the mandate, do that now so that we can be rid of this inconvenience?
Right, and that's a great point. And that, I would say, I mean, again, this is just my opinion. This isn't really backed by any fact. But it's just from what I've come to know. That would work if it was just COVID-19, like the original variant, but now you have COVID, the Delta variant. I think they have like Lambda coming out now or whatever. I don't know. You have all these new variants coming out all the time. And so it's, from what I can tell, it's basically like the flu. Like every single year, a new flu is out, and so everyone has to, or those who want to, get a flu vaccine every single year to accommodate for the new type of flu.
Yeah.
And excuse me. So that's kind of like where I'm like hesitant. Like, all right, but so if we do this for it to stop, when is it going to stop?
Yeah.
Because as soon as you put COVID in front of whatever variant, I don't think any of this is going to stop.
Yeah. So this may be something that's just like you said, with the flu, you have a choice to get it every year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And just like the flu, and I was just reading up on this today, just like the flu, the vaccine doesn't stop you from transmitting the flu. It just stops you from experiencing symptoms and or potential life-threatening hazards because of the symptoms, Yeah. So if I'm vaccinated and I'm carrying around COVID and I'm touching my face, touching all the fruits and vegetables on the store, or touching my face and giving a handshake to someone, like how viruses are transmitted.
Yeah.
And I have the COVID-19 virus. That's not going to stop me from transmitting it to someone else.
Yeah.
It's just going to stop me from having symptoms, essentially.
Gotcha.
Or experiencing symptoms.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of also why I'm not against vaccines. Like I said, I'm against mandating vaccines because their claim is, take the vaccine so that you can protect other people, Yeah. But that's not necessarily the case. If you have COVID-19, and you're not careful, you could transmit it to other people. And I feel like people are being careful, especially the last year. People have become very hygienic, but it's just interesting to me because, I could get into this, obviously.
Yeah.
But just put it into perspective. COVID-19 numbers were way up high, especially during the winter.
Yep.
Except the flu numbers were way down.
Yeah.
And then people were like, oh, well, why are the flu numbers down? Oh, because people are being a lot more careful and not transmitting these viruses. So where is the COVID virus coming from? It didn't make any sense to me anyways. But
Karen Dodd retired as West Warwick High School's nurse at the end of last school year. She comes in once in a while this year to fill in until her position is permanently filled. Her views differ from those of Goratoy and Carlson.
My personal feeling is that everybody should get the vaccine. It certainly will help you to prevent getting COVID. There is still the chance that you can get COVID, but if you do, those who are vaccinated and get COVID will certainly get a milder case of COVID. You won't get as sick as those people who have gotten COVID. So right then and there should tell you that the vaccine is working. Masks do work. They do have use.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly cloth masks aren't as good as the masks that we've been using in school. There are people who do use cloth masks, but masks do have their use. If you sneeze, you cough, you're coughing into your mask, so that when you cough and you sneeze, those particles aren't getting out into the open air where they're getting into people. People aren't breathing in those particles. So that then right there, the masks do work. So they do have a usage, but forcing people to wear masks, I don't know. To me, that's a personal choice.
Yeah.
Little kids. I just saw an article. I was actually listening to a program the other day for children, the little kids. This doctor that was speaking said the little kids really, the masks aren't working for them. Little kids should not be wearing masks. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about pre-KK and even into elementary schools, that the little kids' masks do not work. Mm-hmm. So forcing little kids to wear masks is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Here at the high school, you're talking about young adults and older, teachers and us, so we're the older adults.
Yeah.
Whereas, yes, the masks do work.
Yeah.
So.
Are they not working at the younger level because the kids aren't wearing them correctly, or?
Right. They don't know how to wear them. They drop down below their nose. Some of them down around their lips. So they're not wearing them right. They're pulling them off. Then if they have the cloth masks, they're sneezing, coughing, and and they're breathing that right back in. So they're really not working the way they should be working. So again, like I said, I was listening to this doctor speak. She was a pediatrician, and she says the masks really don't work on the little kids.
Yeah.
So little kids really should not be wearing masks.
Yeah. You're in the healthcare profession, okay?
Yep.
And there's a big thing. My sister's a nurse. I have other people in my family who are in the medical profession, and there are people who in the medical profession who are just don't want to get the vaccine and don't like the mandates. How do you feel about people who are in the healthcare profession not resisting the vaccine?
I don't understand why they won't get the vaccine, especially people who are working in the medical field. I don't understand it. My husband's a nurse too, and we have this conversation all the time. I think the feeling is that they don't want anybody telling them what to do. Well, it's my body. It's you can't. It's my freedom. You're taking away my freedom. You're taking away my liberty.
Yes.
You're taking away my choice. It's my choice. It's my body. I don't want to put something foreign into my body. I don't know what that stuff is, and it's poison. You know what? It's not poison. It works.
Yeah.
I mean, you see how it works. How many thousands and thousands of people have had the vaccine and have been okay?
Yeah.
And those who have gotten the vaccine and have come down with COVID, really, they have such a mild case. And then on the other hand, you have all of these thousands and thousands of people who have gotten really sick and have died. So you have to, there really is there's no...
Well, when you look at the numbers, and before this comes out, I'll look them up, but the numbers have been pretty consistent.
Yes.
That virtually all, with very few exceptions, of the people who are hospitalized with COVID are unvaccinated. Almost 100%.
Yes.
And statistically, you rarely see numbers that definitive.
Right.
Yeah.
So it really makes, to me, as a medical professional, it makes no sense. It just makes no sense. And I have people ask me all the time, what do you think? Should I get vaccinated? Yes, get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Get vaccinated.
We do have a choice about many things in this country, but there's other things we don't have a choice about, like the vaccines that children must have, almost without exception, before you even enroll for school. What are those vaccines, other than this one? What are the ones that are required, that have been required since I was in school?
Oh, you have DTaP, you have MMR, you have polio, you have varicella, Tdap. Meningococcal. There are vaccines that you have to have before you can come to school.
Yeah.
It's just another vaccine. That's how you have to look at it. It's not going to. It just doesn't make sense. This is a vaccine that can save your life.
Yeah.
If you stop and think. If you stop and think about it, you have seen people. Everybody, we've all seen pictures of people in an ICU bed.
Yeah.
On a ventilator, with tubes coming out of everywhere.
Yes.
This is what can happen to you if you do not get this vaccine.
Yeah.
I have not worked in a hospital in a long time, but I have seen people in an ICU bed looking just like that. And I know I don't want to end up looking like that, or I don't want anybody in my family looking like that.
Yeah.
It's a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
And and now we have to worry about this Delta that is even worse. I just can't wrap my head around it, that these people are just pushing back against this vaccine. I just don't understand it.
Do you think the mandates will be effective in pushing us over the hump of that 70-80% for herd immunity?
I think there are going to be people who are just not going to get it, and they're going to lose their jobs, and they'll go looking for another job. And my sister works at Kent County Hospital. I think everybody has to be vaccinated by October 1st. If they are not vaccinated, they are going to lose their jobs. Mm-hmm. And my sister has told me that a couple of people that work at the hospital are not going to get the vaccine, and they are going to lose their jobs.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Medical personnel?
We're talking RNs. They are going to lose their jobs.
Yeah.
Because they refuse to get the vaccine. If anybody has any questions about the vaccines, I would encourage them to, sit down and speak with their healthcare provider. Before I got my vaccine, I spoke with my healthcare provider, and any questions I had, I asked her directly. And I would encourage anybody who has any questions talk to their healthcare provider.
Yeah.
And certainly they have the knowledge.
Yeah. I told you at the start of this show that you would hear from two people in the anti-mandate camp and two who are more or less for mandates. Nurse Dodd was one of those people. The other one is me. I am for mask and vaccine mandates because I think this is an all-hands-on-deck situation. What I say might, and probably will, not sit well with some people. And many of those people are my friends, my coworkers, my relatives. I'll be as brief as I can and to the point, because this issue has been anything but. First, I'd like to say that this is an issue that I do not talk about in my classes or in school. I do not ask any students if they are vaccinated. That is a private matter. And it is their business, not mine. As far as the masks, I do not debate the issue with my students, with any students for that matter. You have to be wearing them to come to school, period. That's the rule. That's the mandate imposed by the school district. There is no debate or discussion before, during, or after class. That said, I need to say a vast majority of students at West Warwick High School are doing their part and wearing their masks correctly, and I applaud them. There has been enough time to study vaccines. More than 200 years to be exact. The reason other vaccines take longer for approval, as Nick said during our interview, is because of red tape, and there was not an emergent need for the previous vaccines like there has been during this pandemic. For decades, we've been listening to our doctors and pediatricians and getting our children and ourselves vaccinated. But now, all of a sudden, in 2020 and 2021, they don't know what they're talking about? Let's be serious. What's changed is there is a lot of noise from people who think this is a civil liberties issue. And social media, along with some mainstream media outlets, has given a platform for misinformation like there has never been before. It is not a civil liberties issue, and I'll tell you why. We have much freedom in America, and I am thankful for it. People have died for it, and I thank them more than I can ever put into words. There are times when we need to stand up for that freedom, to question those in power. But this is not one of those issues, or one of those times. Our freedom is not unlimited. Americans have many freedoms, but spreading a deadly disease to others is not one of them. Vaccines work. Masks work. They are not perfect, but they work. On the YouTube version of this podcast, I have links to information, facts that back up what I am saying. And yes, you can choose not to get the vaccine, but choice is a two-way street. That means your employers can choose not to employ you if you are unvaccinated. It's not the choice you want, but it's a choice. Businesses also have the right not to let you in if unvaccinated. People criticize the New York vaccine cards, but the fact is that businesses have every right to do that. Again, choice goes both ways. And I agree with Ivan that businesses and the economy are important. I get it. But our health is more important. And the fact of the matter is that if everyone, or even a vast majority of people, did their part by now, we would be talking about the coronavirus in the past tense and frequenting businesses maskless as we once did. If we all do our part, then businesses and the economy get back to normal more quickly. And so do we. And we need that. What's hurting society now the most are people doubting science that has been proven. I have heard people say that the pandemic is overblown and that the fear-mongering media makes it worse. And if you look at the numbers, the pandemic is really not that bad. There are about 330 million people in the U.S. Of those, only 729,000 have died of COVID. That's only 0.0022% of our total population. And looking at numbers like that is misleading because numbers alone don't tell the complete story. Let me give you an example. In World War II, 12,209,238 troops served in the U.S. Armed Forces. Out of every 1,000 troops who saw combat, there were 8.6 deaths in battle. That is 0.0086%. So, does this mean you'd go into combat without a weapon? Without supplies? Standing straight up instead of hiding behind something? Not digging a foxhole? Look by the numbers, World War II wasn't that dangerous, but we all know better than that. Another way to look at World War II is that 407,316 troops never made it home. That's almost half the population of Rhode Island today. That's enough people to fill Gillette Stadium almost 6 times. And that 729,000 who have died from COVID is more than the U.S. lost in the Civil War on both sides. If your head is spinning with all of these numbers, I ask you to do this. Don't take my word for it. Don't listen to me or anyone else on this show or any show. Listen to your doctor. Talk to him or her about what to do when it comes to your health, and then make a decision based on the facts, on their training, and on what they know about you. Thanks for tuning in. All music and sound effects for the podcast come from WeVideo, Speechello, and My Instance, which I use along with Twisted Wave to produce the show. This has been a presentation of the Media Broadcasting and Journalism Pathway at West Warwick High School. If you're a student interested in learning more about radio, TV, and journalism, then you can get in touch with me, Mr. White, at ewhite@ww-ps.com. More information about the Pathway is also below on the YouTube version of this show. And you can also listen to the Words with Wizards podcast on Spotify and Google Podcasts. The Pathway and shows like this are not possible without sponsor support. Part of being a sponsor is that you and or your business can get exposure on this and other Pathway broadcasts. Funding goes toward the purchase of new equipment, student scholarships, and professional development. You can find more information on sponsorships, which are tax deductible, at the bottom of the YouTube version of this podcast. Hey, got an idea for the show? Visit the Words with Wizards webpage at wwhstv.com. After you get to the website, click the link Other Shows. You'll find Words with Wizards right there. That's wwhstv.com. There's a form on the page that you can fill out to let me know about your ideas for the show. And we'll see you back here soon. Until then, stay safe, stay informed, and for the second straight school year, stay behind your mask.